Okay, let's dive right into this. Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're cracking open a highly classified dossier on one of the absolute most heavily suppressed and infamous battles in the history of the secret space program. We're going to unpack the alleged Subterranean firefight of 1979. It's a wildly controversial story that bridges black-budget engineering, unauthorized genetic programs, and a truly staggering human cost.
Think of this as our table of contents for a top-secret briefing. Here's how we're going to logically deconstruct this massive cover-up today. First, the whistleblower's scars. Second, forging the glassworms. Third, the Chimera protocol. Fourth, the 1979 Dulce Firefight. And finally, the silencing protocol.
Section 1. The Whistleblower's Scars. Let's talk about the man who brought this all to light.
In the mid-1990s, an explosive figure named Phil Schneider stepped out of the shadows and onto the lecture circuit. He claimed to be a former geological and structural engineer hired by Morrison Knudsen with extremely high-level security clearance. And he didn't just talk about boring blueprints, He dropped an absolute bombshell, claiming that while he was helping expand a massive deep underground military base beneath Dulce, New Mexico, he was thrust into a literal subterranean war.
Now, what's really interesting here is that Schneider didn't just ask the audience to take his word for it. This wasn't just a sci-fi story. During his lectures, he would physically open his shirt and display this massive, terrifying scar running straight down his chest. He claimed it was a cobalt radiation plasma burn, presenting it as undeniable physical proof that he survived an encounter with advanced, non-human weaponry back in 1979.
Section 2. Forging the glass worms. How exactly do you build these bases?
Seriously, before a subterranean war can even happen, you gotta ask, how do you silently dig out a massive, deep underground military base without anyone noticing millions of tons of excavated rock? Well, the alleged answer is actually a matter of public record. Back in 1972, scientists at the Los Alamos Scientific Laboratory filed this exact patent, US Patent 3693731A, for something called a nuclear subterrane.
This is how advocates claim the black budget achieves total logistical invisibility. Think about standard tunnel boring machines for a second. They produce literal mountains of dirt that spy satellites can easily spot from orbit. But the nuclear subterrane, it theoretically solves this completely. It doesn't crush the rock at all, it melts it. It pushes molten magma outward to form a perfectly smooth, seamless glass-lined tube, leaving zero rubble behind.
According to the patent, it pulls this off through extreme thermodynamics. It uses an onboard compact nuclear reactor to heat a tungsten tip to over 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit. That is hot enough to literally melt right through solid bedrock. For Schneider's supporters, this Los Alamos patent is the hard physics proving the government had the exact hardware needed to carve out the shadow underworld.
Section 3. The Chimera Protocol. This is where things take a truly dark turn.
So, what did Schneider claim was actually happening down at Dulce? According to his dossier, the lowest levels of this facility were occupied by hostile, non-human biological entities operating under the 1954 Greada Treaty. And they were allegedly conducting horrific genetic experiments known as the Chimera Protocol. We're talking about DARPA-funded invasive clinical splicing of human and animal DNA to engineer a specialized biological servitor class. To ground this sci-fi horror in reality, investigators point straight to the physical geography of Archuleta Mesa in New Mexico. You see, a massive subterranean city would require millions of cubic feet of air exchange just to keep everyone alive. And out there, in the seemingly empty, desolate terrain, researchers claim to have located massive, reinforced concrete ventilation shafts and exhaust grates bored straight down into the earth.
Section 4. The 1979 Dulce Firefight. Let's get into the tactical breach.
Here is the rapid, step-by-step breakdown of that chaotic escalation. First, an inadvertent breach. During routine excavation, Schneider's team, escorted by U.S. Green Berets and Delta Force operators, accidentally dug directly into a cavern system already occupied by gray and reptilian entities. Second, the encounter was immediately hostile, face-to-face. And third, a massive, violent firefight ensued, involving incredibly advanced directed energy plasma weapons.
And the crucial point here is the absolutely staggering cost of this suppressed battle. Schneider solemnly claimed that 60 highly trained U.S. special operators were killed in action during that initial subterranean exchange. Entire elite units essentially wiped out in a matter of minutes.
Section 5, the silencing protocol. Let's look at the brutal response to all of this.
When an amplifier like Schneider starts talking, supporters argue a silencing protocol is swiftly activated. Just trace this impossibly quick timeline. In the mid-1990s, he breaks his non-disclosure agreements. By 1995, he's commanding crowds on the lecture circuit, physically showing his scars. But then, in January 1996, just months before a massive planned tour to reveal even more evidence, he's found dead in his apartment.
Now, the coroner officially ruled it a suicide, but let's deconstruct the sheer impossibilities of that official narrative. Schneider was found strangled with a rubber catheter hose wrapped tightly around his neck multiple times. But here's the thing. Due to his previous injuries, he suffered from severely limited shoulder mobility and was literally missing several fingers. Actually, scratch the suicide theory, because for his family, he totally lacked the physical dexterity required to do this himself. It was a poorly staged hit.
His friends and family have maintained from day one that the deep state executed him to protect the Dulce secret. Within the lore of the secret space program, his death is viewed as the ultimate smoking gun. For those who believe his story, his brutal assassination isn't just a tragic end. It's grim, absolute validation that every single word he said about that shadow world was true.
So, I want to leave you with this lingering thought. If Schneider's claims hold even a fraction of truth, if 60 elite U.S. operators really died in a subterranean war, and a whistleblower was executed for trying to warn us, what else might be hiding right now in the thousands of miles of glass-lined tunnels beneath your feet? It completely challenges your perception of reality, doesn't it? Keep questioning the narrative, and thank you so much for joining me for this explainer.